Hello and welcome back to Kerbal Explosive Kolonisation. So today we have a lovely little base here, as you can see. This is running at normal rate. I just wanted to show people what a sort of idea of the frames per second are. We're roughly running around about 8 FPS when the base is loaded. Somebody commented how well it was running. And in general, the reason it runs so well is because most of my footage is sped up, almost all of it. But I'm going to show a little bit more today unsped so you get an idea how I'm seeing things. But as we're starting up here, we are going to release some ships and get them into orbit. So, as I decide to launch this ship, I release it and I notice some problems. As you can see there, the fairings are coming off and yeah, killing absolutely everything. So I decide to do a reload. There we go, kicking the fairings off. And I get some explosions, but it seems to manage. Well, that'll do for me. As long as they're off, we can try going for orbit and doing it the old fashioned way. And as usual, the launch kills the launch pad. It's all fun and games. You should see how many I've actually produced. But nice steady launch, we don't get too many issues. I try and go up vertically a lot more to basically to counteract the fact that I don't have a fairing on this, and although it's fairly smooth, I still don't trust it. I've learned my lessons with launching these things, and none of this is actually reinforced with auto strut, which is something I really should do more often. But it seems to be fairly fine. We get it up into orbit. Just jettisoning our extra boosters there. And I'll skip the rest of this and we'd leave the other rocket in orbit. I don't dock it to the station, but just bring it straight back down and try and launch this one. The reason being is the order of sort of locking things onto this station. I have a habit of not planning. When I do stations like this, I don't really plan what I'm doing, and I just try and build in the ability to expand. But because I've kind of gone off script in what I first intended on doing, I'm having a bit of an issue with that at the moment. The main reason is because I put the fuel tanks on, the fuel tank from the previous rockets on as storage space. I do need the storage space, especially for fuel, for refueling things that are going out, but it wasn't planned for, so I need to make some adjustments at some point. Now, after a few orbital corrections, we're close to the station. We're coming into intercept. You get that lovely freeze jolt as everything loads in. And this is where I'm looking at it and trying to work out how to put it together, because I'm thinking I might grab these fuel tanks as well. And after a bit of humming and hawing, I get everything docked on, recycle all the parts as it moves over, and this is the station that we're left with. So we've got 4 massive storage containers that I never originally planned for. But I change them all. I change some of them to rocket parts. I keep some of the stuff as fuel, because that's the main things that I need, is rocket parts and fuel to build what's about to happen. I'm going to make another mining harvester. So this is just the usual little bit of work you get everything built up and bring our mass driver online. We then jump down to the station, down to the landing base, and try out our first launch for orbit. Now, because of the weight of Laythe, and this thing's calibrated for lower gravity worlds, from what was explained to me, I can't send up as much. However, what I did do was I just sent multiple runs, so I could only launch just over a ton at a time, but I sent about 20 different launches, as much as I had the ability to launch. And that got me, as you can see here, my rocket parts, a little bit more fuel, a little bit more food, sorry. And yeah, we now have a connection that requires very little effort, so that's brilliant. Next, it's time for a little bit of station keeping, so we start moving pods about, and unfortunately I discover that the little DSCV pod the new Estonian drone ship that I'm using doesn't actually have SAS on board. So I have to do this completely manually, correcting for rotation. And yeah, that's an interesting experience. It has been a long time since I've tried this. A long time. So after a while and bumping into the station a few times and praying and trying to turn on SAS, which isn't there, we eventually managed to get somewhere close and get docked. Aha! At last. So now we have 2 more large docking ports that I can clip parts of the base onto. One of them I don't want to use because it's on the back of that drone ship, but push comes to shove. So we head back down to landing base, and as you can see, I'm just humping up as much supplies as I need. I'm trying to work out what's the maximum I can throw, and then just repeating and repeating for the amount of trajectory that I have calculated. I don't actually run out of doing this, but I give it enough to fund what I'm building up on the orbital station. Now I want to show this just because it shows a good example of what can go wrong. So here I'm using the Orbit Rendezvous, I think it is, Orbital Rendezvous from MechJib. Now it's a brilliant tool and I use it an awful lot, but you cannot walk away from it. As you see here, it's messing about with trajectories and I'm sort of not really paying attention at this. I've literally walked away from the computer as it's going and I hadn't seen what it was doing. But then it tries to keep up with its trajectory by burning like this and basically slams me into the atmosphere. Now luckily I caught it around about this point and corrected, got the ship there in the end, but it's a dangerous thing. And I lost a fair bit of footage during it because I was whacking keys like crazy and forgot and accidentally turned off my camera. So there's the explanation of that, and always be careful using MechJib. And I thought I'd keep this in just because it was my pain, so I'll make it other people's pain. As you can see, I'm getting slightly better at docking without any SAS, but oh god, this is painful. And yeah, I did use the method of get roughly in line and then just hammer the thrusters until the things click together. Funnily enough, I have read somewhere, I can't remember which mission it was, but NASA has used this technique on one issue. But yes, so everything's sort of resorted and we do have a bit more space for expansion. We shall see what happens once everything gets built. Meanwhile, back down on the planet, we have our lovely little Kerbals out doing work to the base, and this is now general maintenance. This problem has, I believe, been fixed by Angel, but I haven't properly tested it out. I've launched a couple of light rockets off of these, but not any of my fun ones yet. But we're going out and putting out our new rocket pads. So walk as far as we can, come back a little bit, and then click. Job done, away we go. So on to some more maintenance. On the other side we're doing the exact same thing. And I'm having a bit of a problem because I forgot about the angles. I have some things attached in very strange ways at the moment, but they work, so I'm not really complaining about them. But next we set up our stuff and we're just getting some things built. I need some drones to go and explore. I need more science, and I figure the easiest way to do it without risking anybody is build more drones. So here we go. After a short amount of time, we are left with this little joy. Which, yes, I called it Predator because I'm childish and this is funny. So the Predator gets moved off the launch pad and we build another one. Because I need to get a few drones, a few different science, and I basically plan on the fact that they're all going to crash at some point. But they also have unreusable science, so I might deliberately crash them. We'll see what happens. Now I've got a few different versions of this. I've got a propeller driven one, which is thanks to Aircraft Plus, and I've got a engine driven one, which is just a stock engine. But we get it up into the air. It's slightly tweaky, but I've sort of lowered all of the power of all the fins and things to try and keep it normal. But we go exploring for things. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm just using the Kerbal engineer to search for new biomes, and whenever I see a biome that I haven't remembered taking science from, then we try and land and take all the science on the ground, because I have more instruments that work on the ground. There you can see all the science instruments are in the middle, and they're all set up to an action group, so we're just launching away. And then instead of relaying them to Kerbal, I always relay them to a station. And at the moment everything is either going to the ISS, which is in the orbit of the moon, or it's going up to the Heaven 1, which is the station you saw before. So up and away again, and more explorations. And we come down for another little landing on, I think it's on the shore this time. Changing the biome each time. Start with the close ones and work our way out. And you can see how well this thing glides when the propeller's not on. But there we go, a nice smooth landing. And after this I jump on to the next one. And we just get this one fired up and launch, and I realised that I've made a horrible mistake. Well, there's your advertised explosions. And we even built some back on Kerbal. So I decided that I'm missing some science from little bits and places around Kerbal because I'm too lazy to go after it all. So I built another Predator 2 on Kerbal. Again, jet fueled, and at this point I haven't really explored the range of them. I do that a little bit later. But I decided to go out and have a look for different things. And I was going to go just to the opposite side of the mountains. And I sort of think, well, why not go a little bit further? So I do actually land at the other side of the Kerbal, but I cut at the Kerbal Mountains, but I cut this out and showed heading south. I don't know why I cut it out. But we land, we get our science, we take off, we carry on, it's nice and smooth. And then further down, we do another landing. So roughly well timed. And yeah, I'm just trying to gather little bits and bobs. Obviously this has the atmospheric sensor, which I didn't have earlier on, so a lot of my science from that is missing. And it has a couple of other things from D-Magic installed to grab bits here and there, and then obviously transmit it straight back up to one of the stations. And even on an uphill, we still manage a not too bad landing, but not brilliant. So back on Laythe, we have another little launch, and as you can see, our launch pad glows but it doesn't explode. But this is not a heavy launch. And this is after I've installed my little update, or the Pathfinder update that Angel provided. I feel really sorry for him, the amount of updates he's doing at the moment. But brilliant stuff, so can't complain, it's always good. So we're just launching this up to orbit, and the entire point of it is having some more relays. I've had a couple of dead spots in controlling probes, so I want to put up a few more, and I want to get them a little bit higher than normal to try and give me some good coverage. That's just the usual fare. Launch it up, get it into orbit, and away we go. A little bit of time warping later, and we are getting close to our build window for our base up in the north. And unfortunately I forget about the problem I'm having with the landing base, because it doesn't have any of Nearty's reactors on it. It flags up when it runs out of electricity. So we have to jump back down there. And while I'm back down there, I ship up some more supplies up to the station, and then I grab one of the Predators and just fly that all the way back up to test its range. Now this is actually at 4 times time acceleration, and yeah, this is just something else. This is after processing time acceleration on video, and it's very slow. It's a prop craft, you can't expect much. But also the way that Airplane Plus has actually done this is they've tried to include fairly accurate sort of flight abilities from the prop engines, which means that this thing only flies at a maximum of 110 to 115 meters per second. So after 10 minutes or so we get fairly close to the base, after another 5 minutes, we can actually see the base from above, and we do our science and head down for a bit of a landing. And as you can see, I've only used a quarter tank of really efficient. I actually reckon I could fly round the planet with one of these, but I am not that bored yet, so we shall see what happens. But we get back down here and then get on to the base stuff. So this is where I have a bit of a problem. Once we swap over to our builder, our big ship, flying ship, this is the window that's coming up. So I reload a couple of times and try everything I can think of, but extra planetary launch pads is not playing game with me. I think it's because of the module manager that I updated, but we'll see what happens. I'm not quite sure of that yet. So after a lot of faffing about with it, I lose the will to live and I decide to just use Vessel Mover to spawn one in. I saw this the other day that it was possible to do this, and this is a perfect time because the base is built. So, well, this is the easiest way around this particular glitch. So after taking ages to find the base, because I'd forgotten the name of it, we managed to get it all sorted. And then you pick a spawn point, and what I'm actually doing is I'm looking for the two poles, because I was originally going to place it right between the two construction poles. So I get it roughly sorted and place it down, and it starts sliding. And that's the one thing that I really don't want this base to do, because I've had issues with this in the past. And as you can see there, I'm just opening up HyperEdit and removing, because Vessel Spawner gives it all of its stuff, so I remove everything from it just to make sure that it is empty and it is a free base. And then decouple our little drone probe and get that free so that it can do some more explanation at some point. And after flicking through all the parts, we get our pilot, shunt our pilot across to the base, and once they're safe and sound, it's time for our engineer to go to work. Now this bit, if you're watching Angel, is probably going to infuriate you, and I'm really sorry. But I set up the resources and they don't actually work. I've still had problems with the resource transfer since I've updated. I don't know what it is, and I haven't actually put any bug reports in or anything like that, because I've just been getting this to work. But I start recycling. I set up the base to consume all resources, which is what I've done in the past, and although I've had problems with resource transfer, I've never had an issue with recycling. But I go around here and I start recycling everything to get all of my equipment, and there's a box of life support on here as well. And when I go back to the station, everything is missing. So I don't have any life support there. Here's my little life support section. When I go back to the station, there is nothing. I haven't gotten any of the equipment, I haven't gotten anything else. So I need to start doing some manual editing, so I go and get a drill and start pulling things apart the good old fashioned way. Now, as part of the manual recycling, I can't lift these safer reactors, so I move over my drone and connect them to the wing of the drone. And then use this to move them up to the station and drag them onto my base. Nice and simple. Figured that was the best movement. I could only actually be bothered moving two, but I haven't destroyed them yet. I've left them sat there. So at this point I think, well, I've got this mass driver. Now it's the orbital mass driver, so I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work on the ground. I don't think it should be able to work the way I'm imagining, but we shall see. But I think, well, if I've got this, then why not use it? So what I do is I get set up so that I can put together some little a launch pad and some other utilities, and then I get the base all set up so that we can use the base itself to receive from the landing base. It should be able to throw things this way, because at least the orbital mass driver can receive, even though I've not managed to make it. I've managed to make it send. No, wait, I'm not sure if I have. We shall see. I can't remember what I've actually done with this now. But We set this base up so that everything is drilling minerals so that it's already producing, because the entire point of this base is to be able to produce equipment, and a lot of it. This is in the perfect resource area for equipment. The only natural resource that isn't here is the... I've forgotten the name of it already. The minerals. So it has exotic minerals and metals and stuff like that. It just doesn't have the normal minerals that you use. So it can do an awful lot of things, and it can throw things about, and it has an orbital mass driver, which at the moment can receive. So we get loaded in and we hop back to our other station. Every time I say station, I mean base. But yeah, back at landing, we load up a whole load of food because there's no life support up at the other base. We have lost a lot of life support. And on a tiny mistake, I send all of the food that I have. As you can just see there, I sent absolutely everything. I wasn't reading everything correctly. But we send out food, we send out uranium, we send out water and oxygen. The necessities of life, in my opinion. By the time we're finished, we have uranium, water, oxygen, all the necessities for life, and we have another base that is producing equipment for us, and is pretty much self-sustainable. It will produce its own food, but at a very slow rate. Now, I did actually try and send some food back, but it wouldn't allow me to. However, the beautiful thing about the way that the landing base is set up is it's constantly producing food. So at the moment it's producing enough to keep everybody going and slowly building up a backlog. That was the main focus of the landing base, although it's become a jack of all trades for everything. So now that that's up and done, we decide to go and get some science. And that decision does not last long. Yeah. Ah well. So seeing us out today, I just thought I'd show you a little clip of our base. I'm time warping forward through it, and as you can see, as long as you're active, it's producing food. And we're building up our resources again. So thanks for watching. I know it's been a bit of a strange one, mostly base focused. It's kind of strange that I don't show much space in my Kerbal space program, but there we go. So like and comment. To be honest, I don't mind subscriptions, but comments are always nice. So I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.